afternoon to others. And if it's okay, I'm going to start recording. So we have that going. Oh, we do have it going, great. So my name is Chris Kennedy, and I'm the Assistant Director at the Urban Systems Lab at the New School, and I'm on the executive team for NATURA. Welcome to everyone who haven't met. We've got some amazing guests today to continue our webinar series. Before I introduce those three folks, I want to just bring up a few announcements for folks who maybe are new to the webinar series or to NATURA. So the webinar series invites members of the NATURA network, which is a network of networks around the world for practitioners and researchers exploring nature-based solutions in their work around in different cities and urban areas. And these are meant to be catalyzing conversation about nature-based solutions in different ways. And so we hope to have a vibrant Q&A afterwards to answer any questions and continue the discussion. For folks who aren't familiar, we do have a website and a newsletter. So I encourage you guys to go sign up for the newsletter where we'll send out some announcements and upcoming opportunities. We have two things that I just want to quickly mention. One is that we have a call for applications for our learning exchange program. And this is a 6 or 15-week residency that allows you to partner with one of our institutions, a part of the network, and to actually do some work with them in collaboration. So those applications are due on February 1st, and they are formatted as a virtual or in-person residency, depending on safety and protocols. So go check out the website for more information on that. And then we do have a really great event coming up in February. We are going to be having our virtual all hands meeting as a part of the Nature of Cities Festival. And the Nature of Cities Festival will take place February 22nd to 26th. And this year, the theme is kind of looking at environmental justice in urban areas from different perspectives. And it's a virtual gathering of urban thinkers exploring the future of cities. So we're looking for proposals to take place during the festival inside the virtual all hands meeting. So if you have an idea for a topic or a theme that you'd like to explore, or you'd like to share your work, you can go to our website and just fill out a quick survey and let us know. Great, and the deadline for that is January 30th. Great. All right, so I'm so excited to introduce our speakers for today. So we have first coming up here, Mariana Vidal Merino, and she is a senior research analyst at PlanAdapt. PlanAdapt is one of our recent networks that joined NATURA. And she's in charge of the coordination hub based in Dresden, Germany, where she shapes PlanAdapt's research work in view of climate change adaptation and climate risk management. Mariana has over 10 years of professional experience working on climate change adaptation, sustainable rural development, and natural resource management in the global South. Her expertise lies in the application of bottom-up, mixed methods approaches to identify and co-generate solutions to complex problems and the land use sector. And for folks who are not familiar, PlanAdapt is an independent, global network-based organization that provides knowledge services in support of effective, economically just, and socially inclusive climate change adaptation and climate risk management around the world, with a particular focus on the global South. So Mariana is going to present first, and then following her, we'll hear from Brad Gaolach. He's an associate professor from Washington State University Extension and focuses on community sustainability in Washington's metropolitan areas and communities. He's the founding director for both WSU's Metropolitan Center for Applied Research and the Extension and the Western Center for Metropolitan Research in the Extension. Sabrina Eldra will also be joining, and she is the Natural Resources Advisor at the University of California Cooperative Extension for Los Angeles and Ventura counties. So welcome to Brad and Sabrina. And the Western Center, for folks who are not familiar, works to increase the internal capacity of Western Extension programs to address metropolitan issues and to elevate the stature and value of cooperative extension to external metropolitan audiences. So welcome to them. Brad did have a quick announcement that he prepared this kind of last minute, so he does apologize, but I'm sure it's going to be a fabulous presentation nonetheless. All right, so I'm going to just hand it over to Mariana. And Mariana, are you able to share your screen okay?
Let's see.
Okay.
Let me try. I think now you should be able to see my screen, hopefully.
Great.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Chris, for your kind introduction. And thank you also to Tessa and the whole organization team for this invitation to speak about PlanAdapt, what we are, our work, and how that connects to the NATURA network. And yeah, so I'm not alone today. Today I'm with my colleague Samiti Pawa Gaolach, and she will help me with this presentation. So I will start mentioning a little bit more of the overall concept of PlanAdapt and how our network operates. And then Samiti will provide some more concrete examples of our ongoing work and how we apply nature-based solutions for ecosystem-based adaptation services. Perfect. So let's try to start this presentation. And I will put also the timer. Okay, perfect. So we are a network that is, or network-based organization that is called PlanAdapt. We are also a social enterprise, which means that at the end of the day, our organization pursues a social goal. In this case, our goal is to support people that struggle with the impacts of climate change and climate injustices. And of course, if we are talking about the disproportionate impact of climate change and climate injustices, we are also talking about the Global South. And that's one of the main areas in which we work, countries of the Global South. Not only, we are also active in countries in Europe, but most of our work focuses on the Global South. And climate change adaptation, as you may know, it's really a broad concept, a big one, transdisciplinary and quite abstract. So what do we do within climate change adaptation as a network? So basically our work focuses around knowledge and how knowledge is transferred and utilized for decision making. So here, some of the statements that you will always hear us mentioning is that we really believe in walking this extra or last mile of knowledge transfer and learning so that knowledge can be taken to places where it is actually needed. And by doing so, to help adaptation knowledge move beyond the academic and expert circles. And the idea of the network, of the people within the network, is that the part of awareness that even though climate change adaptation has made significant progress in the science behind it and understanding those processes, nevertheless, if we see how much of this knowledge it's really transferred into a language that can be, language or information that can be used for decision making, then we see that this ratio is really not high enough. So we believe there is some work to do and things that could be improved. So the work of PlanAdapt goes around knowledge and knowledge brokering for helping decision making and for a better adaptation. At the same time, we also believe that climate change adaptation is a rather new topic, and therefore the knowledge that you find on the ground, the expertise, other kinds of knowledges like the traditional one, are equally important and should also inform adaptation processes, because adaptation is context specific. So as I said, we are a decentralized global network of professionals from different expertise, different countries. Most of our members are not localized in Germany, where the research hub is located, but are spread all around the world. Most of our members coming from the Global South indeed. And the type of work that we do are, first of all, action-oriented research, mostly together with other partners as part of consortia. I think Samiti will speak a little bit more about that in the second part of this presentation. We also provide advisory services And I will talk a little bit how we provided advisory services, because I believe part of the innovative art of how our network operates has to do with the type of advisory services that we aim at providing and how we connect with the people that provides those advisory services. And of course, there is a big part of training and capacity development that we also do as part of our work. So again, just to emphasize a little bit, the principles that we care about is we believe in leaving no one behind, that climate change adaptation, climate risk management as a process should be inclusive right from the beginning. It should include nature-based solutions as an important part of solving problems related with the ongoing effects of climate change. So using ecosystems to help humans better adapt, and that the outcomes of any type of adaptation should be also economically just. And all these three sentences have to do a lot with who participates and who decides and who benefits from adaptation processes. And also, yeah, who provides a service or advice, and I will talk a little bit more about that here. So the way we operate as a network is basically through three pillars. The first pillar is almost a new one. We started with a more structured way of organizing our work and how we pursue work opportunities. I think it was December last year. It is the PlanAdapt marketplace, which is basically a common space for our network members to meet. We meet on a weekly basis, and during those meetings, we analyze work opportunities, and we also, like, it's a platform that serves as a space for people with different skills or different expertise to meet and to group and to build these opportunities by themselves. So the PlanAdapt marketplace has currently 25 active fellows, while our network is much bigger. This smaller space, it's really more oriented towards pursuing work opportunities and development of project ideas. Project ideas doesn't need to be monetary ones. Many of the working groups that we have within the PlanAdapt marketplace are currently developing, for example, scientific publications together, or technical manuals, or ideas for training or advisory services. And the Research Hub, what we do is support those working groups in pursuing their ideas, for example, by helping them to find adequate funding for them. And the third pillar that is an underlying one and an important one is the learning and collaborative spirit of all our activities within the network. So most of the learning happens as peer-to-peer learning within the different working groups that we have in our network, but also PlanAdapt offers regularly activities. We have a PlanAdapt topic forum in which we invite experts that talk about the newest methods on climate change adaptation, climate risk management. And actually, it would be very nice if in the future we could also have some invitees from the NATURA network participating on our topic forum. Yeah. And the PlanAdapt Coordination Hub, that is the smallest group within the network, is based, well, it's not, we are not all based in Germany, but most of us, and we provide support to all these activities of the whole network. And I'm reaching the end of my part of the presentation, but I would like to extend an invitation for all of you. If you are curious about the marketplace, want to know more, or want to find out about further ways to connect and engage with PlanAdapt, you can visit our website. There is a lot of information there, but also please feel free to connect to any of the members of PlanAdapt that are active on the NATURA network as well. And before going to the second part and leaving the floor to my colleague Samiti, I would like to invite you to a Mentimeter and to answer a question regarding how ecosystem-based adaptation should be implemented in the cities, which is a topic that is really close to the work of most of you and the NATURA network as well. So you can go, let me try to put the link on the chat box. Yes, so I'm placing a link on the chat box that you can just click to go there, or you can also go to mentimeter.com and enter the code. And I would invite you to reply to the question, according to your perspective, what principles should be guiding and underpinning urban EBA work? So what are the main principles that you think should be considered when implementing ecosystem-based adaptation in the cities? I will leave just a minute for people to answer.
Right.
Let's see, we have 5 entries. So there is some people still thinking about that. So we have already some entries. So people think justice and equity should be important principles. Locally led, JEDI principles. I would like to somebody maybe to to talk a lot about the JEDI principles. I don't know them. Focus on benefits to all, centering community needs. All communities should be involved. Actually, that's also one of the underlying principles that is always highlighted. Led by place-based and indigenous knowledge. Whenever possible, of course, I think that is important. Restore and connect biocultural relationships. It should not be isolated in both implementation nor in sector. Ecosystem-based needs to be completely integrated into social, physical, and governance, not just set of recommendations. True partnerships in getting it all done. I couldn't agree more with that. Ecological resilience and social participation, local practitioner involvement and inputs, again, environmental justice, preventing gentrification. Yes, I completely agree with that. Act locally, think globally, sharing work and information. JEDI equals justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Oh, that's beautiful. I didn't know that. I will use that in the future. And who is to look at who is going to benefit, what are these services, and the rapidly growing cities in the global south has also seen increase in the slum dwellers population, which are socially and economically isolated. Issues such as this need to be incorporated into urban EBA work. Excellent. Thank you everyone for the inspiring thoughts about urban EBA work. And if it's okay, I can also share this later with with all of you these results, and then I would invite my colleague Samity to continue with the presentation.
Thanks, Mariana. Really appreciate that. That's great. So we'll just hold questions for Mariana towards the end of the webinar for today. Okay, so up next, we're going to be hearing from Sabrina Drill and Brad at the Western Center.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris.
Yeah.
There is still a couple of slides from that are to be presented by my colleague Samity if we have enough time. Would that be okay?
Yeah, maybe
yes?
like 5 minutes if that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, great. We will try to have it.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. Am I audible? Yeah. Thanks, Mariana. Thanks. So great introduction to the PlanAdapt approach, and that was just exemplified with the Mentimeter. Just sharing here the work that we started at PlanAdapt in March already, whereby PlanAdapt co-chairs this working group within the FIBA Urban EBA and catalyzes capturing through an online survey examples of urban EBA. So this slide shows basically the webinar that was held called Ecosystem-Based Adaptation in Cities, People, Nature, and Justice. And the gaps that we were trying to address were the examples from the global south that have missed the detail previously in terms of how justice is actually addressed. So it's represented in process, women's voices, impacts, and community representation. And the question we asked was whether a justice lens can address this gap. Next slide, please. So this is a survey snippet which shows that we've had around 33 responses to date from 27 countries or cities from the global south, 7 from the global north. And the snippets also show that around 11 reported cases were from the core urban zone and around 15 from urban and peri-urban. And that 8 have reported a high impact to reduce impact of climate change on women and vulnerable groups. Next slide, please. Some examples of the survey findings in terms of the types of urban EBA measures. I won't take too much time, but just to show that the first 2, 3 are around the renaturalization of river systems, urban forests and parks, and thirdly, urban agriculture, which also competes with street trees and ecological corridors. Next slide, please. Also in terms of the findings, because we started out with this idea that perhaps the cities from the global north have a different approach to urban EBA than cities from the global south. And again, the detail is a bit small here, but what it shows is that there is a high level of urban agriculture as well as focus on water-based solutions in cities from the global south as compared to the global north. Also, because the survey results were based on very few examples, we can't draw generalizations, but these are some of the high-level findings. Next slide, please. This is some of the work that PlanAdapt has done with the PEDRR and FIBA policy work on promoting nature-based solutions in the post-2020 global biodiversity framework, which concludes that nature-based solutions can contribute to addressing biodiversity loss and ensuring that people benefit from nature. Next slide, please. This is drawn from the policy brief, and it shows how nature-based solutions can contribute to sustainable development. And I've been attending the Gobishona conference, where again, nature-based solutions are a big topic. And the attention that's being drawn is to how nature-based solutions can both reduce threats as well as meet societal needs. Next one, please. Thanks, Jessie. So yes, I spoke about Gobeshona, which we have a slide for right at the end. But just to say that in September, PlanAdapt took its members to the CBA 14, community-based adaptation. That's used to be physically held in Bangladesh, but now it was online. And our findings were that key takeaway was that there are solutions that are found along the urban-rural continuum that can possibly be applied across both contexts. The case study that we highlighted there was that urban farming in Cape Town, for example, has been immensely useful during the COVID lockdown. And that when solutions are locally led, they tend to incorporate climate justice concerns because they come from the ground where the challenges are experienced by the communities already. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here, just as Mariana was mentioning, PlanAdapt works in knowledge production, in capacity development. So there are some examples of the work that we put out there, such as contribution to voices from the frontline. Again, talking about the Cape Town example, to the Global Resilience Partnerships website. Then a book chapter that we are working on that look at resilient institutions supporting locally led nature-based solutions in sub-Saharan Africa. And then a capacity development program on adaptation that we are working on with partners in India at the Indian School of Business. Next slide, please. These are examples of work that PlanAdapt has done in relation to climate risks management, presenting at the Adaptation Futures Conference in 2018, work with the World Water Week in 2018. And there's more in the next slide. Yeah, we've worked in the climate soil nexus, working with planners and sharing opportunities for training courses. We've partnered with Lufana University as well as Arizona State University towards a global sustainability science masters. Next slide. And this particular slide showcases our work in the global south, in particular in Cambodia, in Vietnam, as well as in Morocco. And finally, the slide on our upcoming session at the Gobeshona Global Conference, which is going on right now in this week, where we present and have an interactive session talking about locally led solutions for urban resilience. I think that's the last slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Samiti. Really appreciate that. And thanks to Mariana and from all the folks at PlanAdapt. Really great presentation. So we're going to move on to Dr. Sabrina Drill, who's going to be sharing some work associated with the Western Center, and Brad is going to be sharing slides and then following up. Okay, great. So I'll hand it over to you, Sabrina.
Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Good morning, or whatever time it is where you are. Yeah, so I'm going to start out by giving a little bit of a context around what cooperative extension is in the United States. And then Brad will be following up talking about the Western Center. So yeah, this is our agenda for today. I'll start with that. Brad will talk about the Western Center, and then we'll talk about connections we see with NATURA. Next slide. Thanks. So cooperative extension is a 106-year-old program. Well, land-grant university, no, cooperative extension, yeah, is land-grant universities actually started about 30 years before that. And land-grant universities were developed in the US to conduct science that was really focused on increasing the efficiency and productivity of agriculture, and to some degree as a response to needing to reconstruct the economy of the US after our Civil War. And then it was realized that we really needed a way to bring that knowledge that was being developed inside the university out to those who were going to use it, and also understand better what research needs and science-based information needs our user community had. So we conduct applied research that's always based on a needs assessment in the community. So very, very applied. We function as both a community on campuses, the land-grant university campuses, as well as a county-based academic program. So we have cooperative extension, either agents or advisors, depending on which university you're associated with, in most counties in the United States. In California, we have them in every county in the state. Initially, as I mentioned, we were really focused on the needs of farmers and rural communities and the agricultural sector, but we expanded since then. And the sort of main programs we had for the first, 90 years of our existence and still carry through to today, agriculture and horticulture, natural resources, water, and then more recently climate change, and then youth nutrition and community development. And the idea was that to assist farmers, we really couldn't just address farmers, we had to address them in the context of their community and their families. And so again, we started with agricultural research and then added what at the time was called home economics for the ladies and 4-H for the youth. And in addition to the hundreds, well, thousands across the country of county-based academics and academics on campus, we also have networks of tens of thousands of volunteers throughout the country in our Master Gardener program, Master Naturalists, and 4-H leaders who work with young people. Next slide. But now, for the past, 10, 15 years or so, we have started to focus more on, all right, we've worked with rural communities and farm communities, but the US is increasingly urbanizing, as is the rest of the world. And we really need to see how we can do a better job of serving urban communities. And to do that, we're really focusing on co-creating programs and working on community engaged research. So maybe a little bit less of we do research on campus and bring it out to the farmers, and a little bit more of really working within communities, both to understand their needs, but also to develop research projects, develop information delivery programs. We're doing more work in policy, systems, and environmental areas.
I said I had to wake up early today. It's a bunch of webinars.
Hi, Vinicius, could you put yourself on mute? Thank you. And especially focusing on underserved communities, and like others are doing, across the NATURA network and across the world, paying more attention to justice and equity, as well as environmental literacy. We work on urban, suburban, rural interdependencies, and we're constantly also working sort of internally as well as externally on professional and organizational development. And some of the issues we work in across the country are, urban rivers, watersheds, and education of youth and broader communities. I, for example, was working on a program. We're developing English language acquisition tools to be used in that ESL framework about local environmental issues. We're doing a lot of work on fire and other issues in the wildland urban interface area, and of course, urban farming. And that's the picture with the horse up there is of urban sort of farming, ranching community in Compton, California, which may be famous or infamous for various reasons as well. Next slide. And internally, we have internally and externally, we work, across the country with our extension colleagues, just some of the networks that we're also a part of, the National Urban Extension Leaders Network, the Association of Natural Resource Extension Professionals. So that's more of, our professional organization there. Extension Disaster Education Network, National Extension Climate Initiative, which is a relatively new program to coordinate across state lines. We have something that may be similar to edX, e-extension, which brings learning and information sharing and peer-to-peer networking into the digital realm. And I did just want to mention that we are, the cooperative part of cooperative extension is not that we're nice and work together with communities, although we certainly do. It's actually cooperative funding. So a big part of our funding comes from the USDA. The next largest chunk comes from the states themselves, and then counties actually put some money into the game as well by hosting our offices and our academics. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brad to focus in on the Western Center.
Thanks, Sabrina, for that overview and introduction sort of into extension in our long history. And as Sabrina had mentioned, we've sort of been in this transition period of going from our agricultural-based history of when most of the United States, extension was born when about 80% of the US was rural and 20% is urban, and now recognizing that that percentage has flipped, has wanted us to look at what can our role be within urban areas. And so part of the extension organizations in the Western US got together to create the Western Center for Metropolitan Extension and Research to look and see how do we engage, advance, and innovate both with community, but also sort of extension as an organization. So the Western Center, as was in part of our introduction, is we really try to work with urban municipalities and bring those extension professionals. So it's really about, our belief is you start with the community and then find the expertise within the university to help solve that community's issue versus having academics who are interested in a theory and then are looking for communities to apply that theory. So we're very community-based, and also sort of that, how do we help innovate extension in this urban space? So the way we do that, a little bit that Sabrina talked about, is we do very much of the applied research that are issue-based and best practices for extension. And then we also work on developing our own professionals and doing some professional development work on, for us, what it is like to work in urban areas. And on the right side of this slide, you can see sort of who's a member of our network. So that network of networks, these are extension organizations that have paid in to be part of the Western Center. And it originated with 6 states in the Western US and now has expanded to 12. And we represent sort of all the geographic areas across the US at this point. So some of the areas that the Western Center is working in sort of nature-based activities is we've done we've been working in green infrastructure. And for us, the green is the nature-based, or as I sometimes say, the chlorophyll-based. It's not so much the alternative energy and stuff. And so one of the things we did early on was actually to conduct a workshop that tries to bring the academic researchers, the practitioners, and governmental agencies together to sort of co-create and co-understand what are the needs of community and what's the role that research can play, and then also what's the workings of government and sort of working in that PSE approach. So how do we sort of bring all those entities together and figure out what are the next steps and how can the universities support urban-based green issues. And as Sabrina mentioned, we're starting really to dive into the wildfire and urban smoke at the WUI, the Wildland Urban Interface. And WCMER is the Western Center for Metropolitan Extension and Research, and I shorten it up to be the Western Center. And so let's see, so at that interface, we are also work with the Cascadia Innovation Corridor, which is an aggregation of, I think, 7 or 8 universities, and sort of from British Columbia, University of British Columbia in Canada, down in through Oregon, to also connect with the research there. And we also have been doing a lot of work in urban agriculture. For us, in the US, the NIFA, the National Institute for Food and Agriculture, is sort of the research arm of USDA, is just bringing out a new funding source for urban, indoor, and emerging agriculture. And so the Western Center worked with some others to host some listening sessions as they were looking at just helping get input on defining what the issues are for urban agriculture and what their research agenda should be. So we held some of those listening sessions, and then are putting together a national innovation group through a USDA mechanism to sort of support the research and extension in that area. And then we've been working in the food, energy, water systems work, FUSE, and have been engaged with a group between connecting the US and China on this FUSE area, which is actually also looking at sort of the environmental aspects of the food, energy, water system. And then we just were part of an NSF grant, of a Network of Networks grant, related to a coordination network around food, energy, and water systems. And we're sort of connected to it through our colleagues in the University of Tennessee, who aren't part of the Western Center, but it's sort of that extension connection broadly. And then we also are part of a Sustainable Regional Systems NSF grant that we just submitted, and that's this image on the left side, which SURS is Sustainable Urban Rural Systems, is one of the terminologies they came up. But really what it's about is sort of the 3 areas that we're looking at in there are headwater and headwater dependent systems, the food, energy, water systems, and then innovative approaches to governance. And that's sort of all in the Intermountain West in the US. So that's sort of the kind of between the Colorado, or between the Rockies and the Mississippi River. So sort of that Western US, that sort of upland deserts and stuff, and somewhat water limited. So the access to water and water dependent systems is pretty critical. So those are some of the research projects and engagement projects that the Western Center is working on. And then sort of thinking through where are some connections. Well, I should back up. One thing I forgot to put on the slide, I forgot to mention, is we also are part of a National Science Foundation grant put in around coastline and people to deal with climate change. I don't know how much of it's actually going to be nature-based solutions. We hope it will be some of that, but we haven't quite gotten to that, and we haven't found out if we've been funded yet for that work. But so connections with the NATURA network is one of the things the Western Center does in part of professional development, but also to advance our research areas, is we fund fellows. We call them deep dive fellows or Western Center fellows, to help us with that innovating in areas of work. And so we actually provide, could be stipend support for the faculty member, but we really don't provide any sort of travel or operation. So we thought that could be an interesting way to leverage opportunities where members from the Western Center could also maybe be part of a NATURA exchange and partner that way. We definitely are interested in hosting the NATURA learning exchanges, and we'll try to figure out here if we can get something submitted. We're brand new to joining NATURA. Just last week is when we officially joined, so we're sort of still trying to figure out how we can connect with that, especially around those learning exchanges. And I think that could be an opportunity with some of the professional development for practicing professionals. And then I think also that sort of the connections between extension, the land grant university that Sabrina talked about, and then with the thematic working groups within NATURA, that I think you might provide an opportunity to connect some of extension's reach into those working groups, and how does sort of extension that sits at that applied research, or that, you know, I like the term that from the first speaker, I think the last mile. It's a really interesting idea. I think about it from transportation, but to think about it from that education and connection is a really good way to think about that. And we do actually develop our own professional development opportunities, so I think those could be some interesting connections there. But also in part of that is supporting the best practices for community-based and community-initiated research. So I think those would be some real opportunities for connecting us with NATURA and the rest of the partners within NATURA. So I think with that, we will close our part of the presentation and hopefully have left enough time for questions for both groups.
Thank you so much, Brad and Sabrina. That was wonderful. Great to hear about your work. Welcome to the network. So we do have about 10 minutes left. There are a few questions in the chat here, but I want to open it up to folks who might want to directly ask either Sabrina or Brad or Mariana, Sumiti, about their work. So if there's any questions, feel free to, again, to put them in the chat, or we can start a dialogue right now too.
I just wanted to address the issue that Z brought up. Certainly, there are good things and bad things about working for an organization with such a long history. And while sort of the narrative we usually talk about is how wonderful it is that we've been around so long working in communities, there's of course a history behind that too. And the land-grant universities were in a large degree founded on funds that were derived from taking, sometimes through certified treaties, sometimes not, land and resources from Native Americans. And there's also a history of, you know, we initially were founded in white dominated areas and added to our extension network historically Black colleges in the 1890s, starting in the 1890s, and then tribal colleges much more recently. So yeah, we're working on it. But yes, good to be cognizant of that.
Thanks, Sabrina. Any other questions that folks want to bring up or place into the chat here?
One other thing that I will mention that Brad pointed out to me, certainly cooperative extension is US based, US focused, but the Western Center is actually going to be hopefully becoming international with some Canadian members potentially coming on. So it's still North American, but expanding. Great. And we actually in California work a lot with colleagues in Mexico.
Oh, right.
So, down.
Maybe a question. Maybe a quick questions for Mariana and her team. I'm just wondering about this idea of urban resilience in the global South, and if you're seeing any particular emerging trends or needs, especially given the COVID context, something you might do differently down in those areas as opposed to in the global North. If you have any thoughts, Mariana, or
please, Sumiti, go ahead. I was searching for the mic, but actually, yeah, actually, I would briefly comment on that and then give the floor to Sumiti. I think also definitely, as we have all noted, that during the COVID pandemic, the way that natures in cities have been like places of escape, or for people to really try to go out, and was like a refugee, the little parks or rivers. But the way that green spaces are allocated in the cities are also not homogeneous. Mostly in rich areas, for example, we were looking at the case study of Cape Town, where mostly areas with a predominance of white people had much more green areas than areas where people had a background from India, or people of color were living. So there is definitely injustice also in the way that nature is designed to be in the cities, and who can access nature within the cities. So I think that is something that has become much more evident with this COVID lockdown, and as these little green areas have become the only refugee space to just make sport and take some fresh air, we have noticed that there is also some work to do in how we want to shape a post-COVID society. Maybe Samiti, you would like to add something about that.
Yeah, just quickly, thanks for the question, and Mariana sharing, especially from Cape Town, which everybody knows is a highly, is in a country which is structured by apartheid, and the city reflects it on a daily basis, no matter what the policies. The built design of the city locks in inequities to a large extent. And I will reflect on one of the solutions, which I did mention in the presentation, which is urban farming, which really took off during the COVID lockdown. And it was almost as if the opportunity came, it was squeezed out because people were unemployed, people were unable to move to places where they used to have employment, and therefore they had to find a way of sourcing food where the government packages were not available or not enough. So and I'm sure there's, if you go on the website of the Global Resilience Partnership, you'll see other solutions that have emerged despite the many challenges during COVID. So and then reflecting quickly on what Mariana also said about nature being inequitably accessed, I think lockdown has really brought that to the fore, at least in South Africa, especially in urban areas. And I also wanted to mention the work that we've been doing with the informality, the thematic working group on urban informality. Duvan and Antonietta are here. And I think we're going to discuss or rather exchange more of those lessons moving forward in our work together. Thank you.
It's great. I see Duvan's here. Hey, Duvan. Wonderful. So thank you so much to all of our speakers. Really appreciate you taking the time, and also for folks who attended. Really appreciate it. Our next webinar will be in February 16th, 2021. We have yet to find a speaker, so if you have any ideas, get in touch with myself or with Tessa, especially if you're a part of the NATURA network. And we hope that you'll join us for the virtual all hands meeting, February 22nd to the 26th. So we'll be sending out some more details about that in the coming weeks. Great. So everybody have a wonderful rest of your day and week, and we'll see you hopefully next month.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice afternoon.
Right. Oh yeah, and there's an early career network meeting right after this too. So.